Future Hornets, current Hornets, forever Hornets. Welcome back to another episode of What's the Buzz. I'm your host, Pitt, and I have a very special guest for you all, a colleague and co-worker of mine, recent K-grad as well, Victor Guerra Lopez.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Pitt.
Welcome to the spot, brother.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. It's gonna be a good time.
Absolutely. I must say that Victor, by far, is a little brother I didn't know I never wanted.
I do get that feeling in the office. You know, we have a good time. It's a good time. It's a good time.
You're the youngest, but so let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
Right. So first of all, just give us some background about yourself. You know, where you from? How did you ended up at at K? Talk a little bit about your K plan briefly, and we'll just go from there.
My name is Victor Guerra Lopez. I'm from Los Angeles, California. More specifically from my LA folk. I'm from Linwood, California.
Yeah, I got a friend named Linwood.
Linwood. And I attended Bright Star Secondary Charter Academy, now known as Stella High Charter Academy, and I'm a Posse student, or rather, I was a Posse student, now a Posse alum. KP 12, Kalamazoo Posse 12, and I came here in 2020, graduated in 2024, graduated with math, Japanese, studied abroad in Japan for about 6 months, and was the president of the volleyball club while I was here.
Talk to us about like what the Posse program is. How did you find yourself, there? And then kind of like what the process is ultimately that led you to, choosing Kalamazoo College to be where you want to go for undergrad.
Yeah, so I'll start at the beginning. It was my going into my senior year, the summer before. I had my counselor, Miss Gonzalez. She nominated me for the Posse scholarship, and I didn't necessarily know what that was. All I knew is that I was applying to get a scholarship.
Yeah.
That was the bare minimum of what I knew. Then going on to doing some interviews, where the first round interview in the Posse office in LA, we were formally introduced to the Posse program, that being sending a group of students out to a university, and the goal is to have all of them graduate through community. In that sense.
Okay. So do you remember how many students you came in with?
Generally, it's around 10 students get selected per cohort.
Yeah. How did the Posse program, support you or impact you and help you, socially, academically, and personally when you were here?
Yeah. I really like to talk about the more, I guess, academic and personal side of it, just because through once I was officially a recipient of the Posse scholarship, we had done something called PCT, and that's generally like doing activities with each other, building that camaraderie with each other. But I think a lot of it was like having difficult conversations, which I think really allowed me to propel myself here. Specifically, at least through K, it's like you meet so many different people from so many different walks of life, and you got to learn how to coexist with them. And I feel like my training with Posse definitely helped me out with that.
So talk about that process. Talk about, and I know you said your counselor reached out to you and just basically told you like, Victor, you finna apply for this scholarship, right? Shout out to counselors like that, right? That don't really give you an option. They just put you out there, right? Because, at 17, 18 years old, man, we ain't really worried about nothing but what we trying to do for the next 15 minutes, right?
When the first round interview sort of happened, because there's 3 rounds of interviews that we have to go through. The first round interview, that was mainly like understanding Posse, and it kind of felt like a luck of the draw in a sense, just because I didn't know what they were kind of basing the selection off of to go to the second round interview.
Yeah.
So I guess being hopeful in that sense, they had us do a few activities with each other, but then ultimately write like a bit of a personal statement right then and there, like on the floor, like in a room full of like 30 kids, just on the floor going at it for like 10 minutes. Luckily, I was selected for the second round interview, and that's a little more personal, where between the first round and the second round, you're expected to do research on the different universities that Posse partners with.
Right.
And amongst those colleges that I had selected, Kalamazoo College was the third, and I think the main reason why I had selected it, it wasn't my first choice, to be frank, but it was very up there, just because it had the things that I knew that I loved.
Yeah.
So I knew from the beginning that like I wanted to, explore the world. Study abroad was a very big is very big here at Kalamazoo College.
It was a big draw for you.
Yeah. So, and then I knew that they had intramural sports. So, and volleyball was amongst one of them. So that's another draw that had me here. And then the flexible curriculum piece, where students don't necessarily have any general education requirements. I'm not a reader, writer. English is not for me.
And I ain't no mathematician at all, so you a better man than me there.
Then the third round interview was about 20 students who were selected. It was the final round interview. 20 students were selected, and amongst the 10 or amongst the 20, 10 students would be selected for that scholarship. You were meeting with the president of Kalamazoo College, Jorge Gonzalez, the director of admissions at the time, whoever that may be.
What kind of conversations were you having with your family and your close friends in preparation for transition into college, but just going through that entire interviewing process?
Yeah. I could tell you it was a little difficult just because the sense that I wasn't necessarily asking for permission. This was something that I knew I wanted to do. And I think a lot of support came from my counselor as well. I remember there was a time where they were asking a bunch of questions and I couldn't answer all of them. And I kind of snapped at my family. I was like, stop asking questions, please. I don't know all the answers. There's people to offer resources to help families go through this process as well, like counselors or even us here at the admissions office, to really answer all those questions that parents may have. And it may be difficult, there was tears, it was ugly, but at the end of the day, I think this is something that I knew I wanted to do, and I was fortunate enough to have support from my family.
I think one of the correlations that I'm seeing between Posse and Kalamazoo College is community.
Yeah,
right? You said that the reason why you come with a cohort is so that it is a big transition from coming from all the way from the West Coast to the Midwest, small liberal arts college, less than 2,000 students on campus, but you've learned how to establish community for yourself. And I think the Posse program has helped you learn how to establish, maintain, and nurture community as well, right? Talk about the Posse Plus retreat.
Yeah, so the Posse Plus retreat happens once an academic year in the winter. And we do take sort of all the cohorts from the different posses that are here out to a retreat area and sort of do activities, have conversations with each other. Very similar to what PCT was, the Posse training that we had in California. But not only that, there's an added component where you can invite other people. And this past year was amazing just because I've never seen so many, we call them the additional guests, the Posse Plusers. I've never seen so many people out there, and it was a great time. We did different activities, conversations, and I think one of my favorite pieces with that is it's a 2-day excursion sort of thing, and at the end of it, you get to know people that you may have not interacted with before, and you get to do something called Warm and Fuzzies, where you just get to write something nice for someone on a sticky note. You can leave your name, or it could be anonymous, and it's just an awesome sort of treat at the end where I appreciated you in this sense, or things like that.
So something that we always ask our guests on this here platform is why K? So I'll pose that question to you.
I always tie my experiences back to the main points that I had talked about. So the performances, the communities, the sporting events, and study abroad. It was all of it is just different types of passions that I have either started before coming here or created while I was here. And I really think Kalamazoo College is the place to foster those passions and create new ones as well.
My man, appreciate you sitting down with me, bro.
No, thank you for having me.
This is a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. So thank y'all for tuning in. It's always special when we get to when I get to sit down with colleagues of mine, because we get to have these conversations often. But it's always a pleasure when we get to share them. But thank y'all for tuning in, and that's The Buzz.